tunehakua. Kamcharamesuk teranihi sirat dilele henestua. Jamur mesuk taranea susana hastai saruset ile hekturat hekteru an. Janu sarmakayat usurut unahua. Hamsharu saratiek ten hurnasut mehkirat
yeah. Fuck yeah. Hell yeah. That shit is cool. Philosopher's Stone. What episode is this? 4? Yeah. Okay. Are you ready to learn a bunch of shit that doesn't make any sense at all? Because this episode is full of information that's not really information. We got the lost continent of Lemuria. Alright, Lemuria, where the lemurs come from. Imagine a magical land where the only animal are lemurs and there are thousands of them. Nah, I'm just playing. Imagine it's that lady from the beginning, just a bunch of them ladies just on a mountain singing to you. Today we're gonna go over a topic that is just, it's trying to do one of them all black puzzles, but you're on ketamine. Literally researching this made me feel drunk. Really, there's so much shit, and I just chose the shit I could kinda understand and like categorize myself. So this is a long-lost, water-submerged continent that supposedly existed about 340,000 million years ago. God damn, that's a long fucking time ago. Home of the third root race. I'm about to explain the root races. That might basically be the episode of me explaining the root races. Alright, so, you know what I'm saying? Destroyed by volcano fires, and now it is submerged underwater in the Pacific or Indian Ocean. I must state all this comes from Madame Helena Blavatsky and Rudolf Steiner and James Churchward. They got books I didn't get to read. I just picked this up today. So Lemuria is where great significant changes came to human beings in body and mind. Ooh, more ancient gene splicing. Red pill me, bitch. Here are the root races and all that. I really love this shit. It ties into like everything. It might be something I maybe might believe in one day for real. The first root race was one of sexless, ethereal beings devoid of understanding, language, or any cognitive activity. They are produced by the Barashad Petri, who there in turn produced ethereal forms of themselves. They are called the Chaya race. Chaya being a Sanskrit word that means image or shadow. These forms were overshadowed by human monads. According to HP, that's 7 separate regions, which where the island is positioned, where the North Pole is now. And that ties into the Hollow Earth. I'm not going to go there now, but I totally fucking could if I wanted to. But that's self-control right there. The first root race to me seems like the entities that have existed in time itself since like the creation of everything. Like just the beings that exist literally everywhere at any given moment. So the idea of God stretched out, except these fools did not understand the solving of any type of problem, which in my opinion makes them pretty goddamn useless. Like, no cognitive thinking. You're this celestial, ethereal body, but you have no problem solving skills. What's the point? Second root race. According to HPB, this was the Hyperborean. The Hyperborean will be the name chosen for the second continent, the land which stretched out its promontories southward and westward from the North Pole to receive the second race and comprise the whole of what is now known as Northern Asia. The Hyperboreans strayed away from all its spirituality from the north and is succumbed by the demons of the South Pole, rendering the Hyperboreans to an ape-like state. Third root race, the Lemurian root race. Our boys over here, our boys and women. Like all root races, consisted of 7 sub-races which are not specifically named. And just as all root races, they have an overriding theme for development. For the Lemurians, the focus was the will and the development of imagination. Once the Lemurians had separated into male and female, the work of their race began in earnest with education of the children. This is where we begin to come back on the up and up for human in our evolution. This is where we, I guess, go up. Fourth root race. HPB says Atlantis is the fourth continent. It would be the first historical land where the traditions of the ancients to receive more attention than to have hitherto. The famous island of Plato of that name was but a fragment of this great continent. The Atlanteans are said to have been playing with technology that would ultimately be their downfall, due to a giant magical crystal being blown up in the Bermuda Triangle. The way they justify this is the cycle of civilization. Races run their courses and destroy themselves over and over and over and over again. That's just the history of everything. Each root race has 7 sub-races, like before. In Atlantis, the sub-races of the fourth root race were Romahal, Tavatli, Toltec, First Turanian, Original Semite, Akkadian, Mongolian, Akkad. You remember that? Or you might remember that from Sumer stuff. Anunnaki, Nibiru. Yeah. Alright, now keep in mind these will overlap. The races will overlap, and you might recognize some of those names. Like I said, each race deserves its own episode, so I won't go into each of those at the time. Now, our fifth root race has already been in existence for 1,000,000 years. Therefore, it must be inferred that each of the 4 preceding subraces has lived approximately 210,000 years. Thus, each family race has an average existence of about 30,000 years. Thus, the European family race has still a good many thousand years to run, although the nations or the innumerable spines upon it vary with each succeeding season of 3,000 or 4,000 years. It is somewhat curious to mark the comparative approximation of duration during the lives of a family race or sidereal year. The last 3 family races of the 4th subrace of the 5th root race, each of which must have lived approximately 25 to 30,000 years. The first of these, the Aryan Asiatics, witnessed the doom of the last of the populations of the giant Atlanteans, who perished some 850,000 years ago. The Ruta and the Daitya island continents toward the close of the Miocene age. The 4th subrace witnessed the destruction of the last remnant of the Atlanteans, the Aero-Atlanteans in the last island of Atlantis, namely some 11,000 years ago. Not too long ago, 11,000. The 6th root race is completely unclear to me. I have no idea what the fuck this thing is talking about, so if you can figure it out without your brain exploding, let me know in the comments, please. Or email, I don't give a fuck. Contact me and let me know. Explain it, please. The 7th race will be far more adept than any present race, and it will be there to instruct the celestial beings, the Daihan Koyan, who's tasked with refreshing the memory of the first round men, which is a whole thing. The first round men is a whole fucking thing that I don't want to get into. After this planet's pralaya. The pralaya is our dissolving or melting away. Our planet just Thanos. Scary shit. Right, so Lemuria was a continent that stretched from the Himalayas to Madagascar, including Australia. So in the beginning of Lemuria, the 3rd root race, the division of the sexes took place. Where before this they were born male or female. They were born with both organs, and self-impregnation was a possibility. And man did not think because he didn't have a brain. No critical thinking, no thought process, just action. Man was like an animal, and his consciousness was like a living, waking dream. DMT trip all the time. So an infant human man wolf. During this 3rd root race, there were superhumans that were clairvoyant and highly intelligent. Sounds like kind of Nephilimic, know what I'm saying? They were tasked to impress man with love or something. I don't understand. I'm not too sure. So man evolves and evolves and evolves and evolves and then gets sunk from too much volcanic activity. That's the end of Lemuria. Following a reference in the Mahatma letters, Blavatsky wrote, Lemuria is said to have perished about 700,000 years before the commencement of what is now called the Tertiary Age, the Eocene. It is during this deluge that an actual geological deluge at this time, the Vivasvata Manu, is again shown as saving mankind. Allegorically, it is mankind or a portion of it, the fourth race, which is saved. According to HPB, there were tribes of people who would later become the Aborigines of Australia, and there were the civilized who later became the Atlanteans, then later the Aryans. The civilized were categorized in pastoralists, who kept their psychic powers, their connections with higher intelligence and whatnot, which had been easily accessible to early humans, supposedly. Just everyone had telekinetic powers. That was just how they talked, which is super weird, because imagine being in a room with everyone talking through their fucking head. Yo, imagine those people talking Lemurian all in a room together, speaking telepathically. And the other category, polar opposite, I guess, of the pastoralist or versus the pastoralist, were the intellectuals, focused on building cities and creating art and researching science, the fundamentals of civilization that have progressed us all these years, which somehow diminished their pastoral abilities of psychic powers and energy connections. Eventually, this way of life and progress would lead to the intellectuals to sin or to lust after awful temptations that just could not be forgiven. Besides the sons of the fire mist, the ones who didn't get tempted by sin, that's who they were, the sons of the fire mist, the ones who didn't get tempted by sin. These were the ones who would survive the flood. Connection to the Nephilim and the Bible and all that shit. That'd be it for Lemuria. There's too many avenues to go down from this. I really don't even want to. It fucking hurt my head. I want to cover Madame Blavatsky though, because she's an occultist or whatever. That's just, there's so much cool shit there. The Akashic Records, which ties into this, I noticed several times. And some of the sub-races of the fourth root race, like the Akkadians and maybe even the Mongolians, if I find some shit about them. If the Mongolians were into aliens, let me know. Honestly, if you want to read into this, read The Secret Doctrine by HPB and The Submerged Continents of Atlantis and Lemuria by Rudolf Steiner. I found both of them PDF style. I didn't read them all, but maybe one day I'll read them in full, and we'll come back to this, and I'll be have a whole new perspective on this. I'll understand it completely. Let's watch some more of that Lemurian language shit. I just mastered the whole language. Thank you, everybody. This is Philosopher's Stone. Hopefully I'll have this lady on next time.